Security Audit, examining last-minute FIFA accommodation risks in Vancouver suburbs. When I read travel advice about staying in Vancouver suburbs during major events like FIFA, my security mindset immediately kicks in. While budget-conscious travelers scramble for alternatives to downtown accommodations, I see a landscape of potential risks that need careful evaluation. As someone who approaches travel from a security-first perspective, I want to examine what travelers should actually be auditing before booking these suburban stays. The advice to venture into Richmond, Burnaby, Surrey, and New Westminster might sound economically sensible, but what security vulnerabilities are we accepting? What should visitors be verifying before they commit to these areas? Let me walk through the critical security considerations that typical travel advice glosses over. Richmond. Transit dependency creates single points of failure. Richmond's appeal centers entirely on Canada Line connectivity, but this creates a concerning dependency risk that I rarely see addressed. What happens when that transit line experiences disruptions, maintenance issues, or security incidents during FIFA events? Travelers booking Richmond accommodations need to audit their backup transportation options before arrival. I recommend verifying the actual frequency and reliability of Canada Line service during your specific travel dates, not just accepting promotional claims. Check TransLink's service disruption history, particularly during major events. What's the backup plan if service stops running during late-night matches? Taxi availability and rideshare surge pricing during peak FIFA times could create stranded passenger scenarios. The security landscape around Richmond's transit stations requires independent verification. While travel writers focus on convenience and dining, I'm examining crime statistics, lighting conditions around stations, and the safety of walking routes between accommodations and transit access points. Richmond's suburban layout means longer walks through residential areas. Audit the actual street routes using satellite imagery and street view tools, preferably at different times of day. Airport proximity sounds convenient until you consider that YVR area hotels often house transient populations and experience higher property crime rates. Verify specific hotel security measures, controlled access, surveillance systems, secure parking if you're driving. Don't assume airport adjacent automatically means secure. Burnaby, validating the hidden gem claims. When I hear neighborhoods described as hidden gems or overlooked, I immediately question why they're overlooked. Sometimes areas stay under the radar because locals know something visitors don't. Burnaby's positioning around Metrotown and Brentwood requires deeper security analysis than typical travel advice provides. Metrotown's description as a major city center needs verification against actual foot traffic patterns and security presence. Large shopping complexes can create security blind spots, areas with high anonymity but low natural surveillance. I'd audit the specific walking routes from proposed accommodations to transit stations, particularly during evening hours when matches might end. The mention of budget-friendly options that booking sites barely advertise raises immediate red flags for me. Why aren't these accommodations prominently listed? Sometimes properties avoid major booking platforms due to regulatory issues, quality problems, or security concerns. I'd verify business licenses, recent inspection reports, and examine guest reviews across multiple platforms for patterns of security-related complaints. Brentwood's rapid development boom, while economically positive, creates security uncertainties. Construction zones mean irregular lighting, temporary security gaps, and changing neighborhood dynamics. Audit current construction activity around your potential accommodation. Major development can mean limited escape routes, increased noise affecting sleep security, and temporary changes to normal foot traffic patterns that could affect personal safety calculations. Surrey and New Westminster, high-risk territory requiring enhanced due diligence. The acknowledgement that Surrey and New Westminster might make some visitors nervous understates the security analysis required here. Surrey has historically experienced higher crime rates than Vancouver proper, and while certain areas have improved, travelers need granular risk assessment rather than optimistic generalizations. Surrey City Centre's transformation narrative needs independent verification through recent crime statistics, not promotional materials. I'd audit specific crime types, times of occurrence, and locations relative to proposed accommodations. Property crime, vehicle break-ins, and street-level incidents can significantly impact visitor experiences, regardless of economic development progress. The extended SkyTrain journey to downtown creates extended exposure periods and dependency risks. Longer transit times mean more opportunities for service disruptions, and late-night return trips could put visitors on trains with reduced security presence. Audit the actual security measures on extended transit routes, camera coverage, emergency communication systems, and response protocols. New Westminster's heritage character, while culturally interesting, often correlates with older infrastructure that may not meet modern security standards. Historic buildings frequently have limited access control, older lock systems, and building layouts that don't support natural surveillance principles. Verify specific accommodation security features rather than assuming heritage charm equals comprehensive safety. Transit security, the critical vulnerability. The entire suburban accommodation strategy hinges on public transit reliability, but I see systematic security gaps in this dependency. TransLink service extensions and increased FIFA capacity sound positive until you examine the security implications of crowded trains, extended service hours, and temporary staffing increases. Peak event periods strain normal security protocols. I'd audit specific security measures planned for FIFA transit periods, increased security presence, emergency response capabilities, and crowd management protocols. What happens during system overloads or security incidents that shut down stations? The recommendation to treat the SkyTrain like your personal city tour ignores fundamental security awareness principles. Tourists displaying obvious visitor behavior on extended transit routes become targets for opportunistic crime. Instead, I'd recommend specific situational awareness protocols, emergency contact procedures, and backup transportation verification. Accommodation verification protocols. Last-minute booking scenarios require enhanced verification procedures that budget-focused advice typically skips. When mainstream downtown options are unavailable, travelers often relax normal booking standards, accepting accommodations they wouldn't consider under normal circumstances. I'd establish specific verification checklists, confirm actual physical addresses using independent sources, verify business registration and licensing, examine recent guest reviews for security-related incidents, and establish emergency contact protocols. Properties offering significantly below market rates during high-demand periods deserve additional scrutiny. Determine why they're priced differently and what corners might be cut. Booking through local Facebook groups rather than established platforms eliminates standard consumer protections and dispute resolution mechanisms. These arrangements often involve cash transactions, limited documentation, and minimal recourse if problems arise. If pursuing these options, establish additional verification steps, photo documentation, written agreements, and local emergency contacts. Risk mitigation strategies. Rather than simply accepting suburban accommodations as inevitable alternatives, security-conscious travelers should implement specific risk mitigation protocols. Establish multiple transportation alternatives beyond primary transit routes, including backup rideshare options and traditional taxi services. Verify availability and pricing for these alternatives during expected usage times. Create comprehensive emergency communication plans that account for potential isolation in suburban locations. Ensure multiple ways to contact emergency services, arrange regular check-ins with home contacts, and establish location-sharing protocols. Suburban accommodations often lack the immediate support infrastructure of downtown hotels. Document accommodation security features upon arrival, lock functionality, escape routes, emergency procedures, and local security resources. What appears adequate in booking photos may prove insufficient upon physical inspection. The security reality. While budget constraints might force acceptance of suburban FIFA accommodations, travelers should approach these decisions with realistic security awareness rather than optimistic assumptions. The cost savings of suburban stays often come with increased personal security responsibilities and reduced institutional support systems. Smart security planning involves acknowledging these trade-offs explicitly and preparing accordingly. The key isn't avoiding all risks. That's often impossible during major events, but understanding what risks you're accepting and planning appropriate mitigation strategies. Don't let budget pressures override fundamental security awareness, and remember that some deals aren't worth the additional risk exposure they create.